poor Maid kissed the dying billionaire. What he revealed after woke the whole mansion. The Wellington estate stood like a monument to excess on the hill overlooking the city, its marble columns gleaming under the afternoon sun. Jasmine Williams pushed her cleaning cart down the East Wing corridor, her worn sneakers silent against the Persian runners that cost more than her annual salary. She had worked at the mansion for 3 years, invisible to most of the family except when they needed fresh towels or someone to blame for misplaced jewelry. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, intercepted her near the grand staircase. "Mr. Wellington is asking for you," she said, her expression unreadable behind decades of professional neutrality. "He's in his private quarters." Jasmine's heart stuttered. Marcus Wellington, the billionaire tech mogul who had built an empire from nothing, had been bedridden for weeks. Cancer had reduced the once imposing man to a shadow, and the family circled like vultures, waiting for the will to be read. She had cleaned his room daily, sometimes catching him watching her with those keen grey eyes that seemed to see past her uniform into something deeper. "Me, are you sure?" Jasmine asked, gripping the cart handle. Mrs. Chen nodded curtly. He was quite specific. "Go now. The family is downstairs with the lawyers." The walk to Marcus Wellington's bedroom felt like miles. Jasmine had grown up in Detroit, raised by a grandmother who cleaned houses to put food on the table. She understood her place in the world's hierarchy. Rich people didn't ask for the help unless something was desperately wrong or they needed a scapegoat. She knocked softly on the mahogany door. "Mr. Wellington?" "It's Jasmine. Come in, child." His voice was barely a whisper, rattling like dry leaves. The bedroom was dim, heavy curtains blocking the sunset. Medical equipment beeped steadily beside the massive 4-poster bed where Marcus lay, his once powerful frame now fragile under silk sheets. At 78, he looked ancient, his dark skin stretched tight over prominent bones. But his eyes were alert, burning with an intensity that made Jasmine stop in her tracks. "Close the door," he rasped. "Lock it." Her hands trembled as she obeyed. "Sir, should I call the nurse?" "No nurses. No family. Just you." He gestured weakly toward the chair beside his bed. "Sit, please." Jasmine perched on the edge of the velvet chair, her mind racing through every interaction they had shared. Had she broken something valuable? Overheard a private conversation? "I'm dying," Marcus said bluntly. "Tonight, maybe tomorrow. The doctors give me hours, not days." "I'm so sorry," Jasmine whispered, surprised to find she meant it. Despite the gulf between their worlds, she had seen glimpses of the man beneath the legend. The way he said thank you when she brought his morning coffee. How he asked about her college courses, actually listening to her answers. "Don't be sorry. I've lived more than most." He coughed, a terrible wet sound. "But I have a problem, Jasmine. A problem only you can solve." She leaned forward. "What kind of problem?" "My family doesn't love me. They love my money." His lips twisted in a bitter smile. "My son Richard is a gambling addict who's already borrowed millions against his inheritance. My daughter Victoria married a con artist who's been slowly poisoning our business relationships. My grandchildren can't be bothered to visit unless there's a check involved." Jasmine didn't know what to say. She had watched the family these past weeks, seen their forced smiles and impatient glances at expensive watches. "I've changed my will," Marcus continued, his voice gaining strength. "Everything goes to a foundation in your name. The house, the companies, the investments, all of it. You'll oversee the distribution to charities, education programs, healthcare initiatives. Real change, not tax shelters." The room spun. "That's impossible. I'm nobody." "I'm just your kind," Marcus interrupted. "You're honest. You see people, not dollar signs. I've watched you, Jasmine. How you help the other staff, how you're studying social work at night school. You're who I should have been." Tears burned Jasmine's eyes. "Your family will destroy me. They'll challenge everything. Let them try. The will is ironclad. My lawyers made sure. He reached out a trembling hand. But I need something from you first. A promise. She took his hand gently. His skin was paper thin, cool to the touch. Anything. Remember me as I was meant to be, not what I became. And kiss my forehead like a daughter would. I have no one else to ask. Jasmine stood, her heart breaking for this lonely man who had everything except what mattered. She leaned down and pressed her lips to his weathered forehead, a gesture of pure compassion. I promise, Mr. Wellington, I'll make you proud. His eyes fluttered closed. Already am, he breathed. Then his hand went slack in hers, and the heart monitor's steady beep became a single, endless tone. The alarm shrieked through the mansion like a wounded animal. Jasmine stumbled backward from the bed, her mind blank with shock. The door rattled violently as fists pounded from the hallway. She stood frozen, Marcus Wellington's final words echoing in her ears while his hand grew cold in hers. Open this door immediately. Richard Wellington's voice boomed through the wood. What's going on in there? The lock clicked and the door burst open. Richard stormed in first, his expensive suit rumpled from hours of waiting downstairs. His sister, Victoria, followed, her designer heels clicking sharply against the hardwood. Behind them came nurses, the family doctor, and Mrs. Chen, whose eyes found Jasmine with laser focus. What have you done? Victoria shrieked, rushing to her father's bedside. Her perfectly styled blonde hair swung as she whipped around to face Jasmine. Why was the door locked? Why were you alone with him? Dr. Morrison pushed past everyone to check Marcus's vitals, though the flat line on the monitor told the story clearly enough. He worked efficiently, checking pulse points and pupil responses before straightening with a heavy sigh. I'm calling it. Time of death, 6:47 p.m. Richard's face had gone purple. I asked you a question, girl. What were you doing in here? Jasmine's voice came out steadier than she felt. He asked for me. Mrs. Chen sent me up. He wanted to talk. Talk. Victoria laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. Our father was dying and he wanted to chat with the maid. Do you expect us to believe that? Mrs. Chen stepped forward, her expression neutral but her eyes sympathetic. Mr. Wellington did request Jasmine specifically. I escorted her myself. This is absurd, Richard muttered, pulling out his phone. I'm calling our lawyers. Something isn't right here. The room filled with more people. Estate managers, personal assistants, security personnel. Someone covered Marcus with a sheet, transforming him from a person into a problem to be managed. Jasmine felt invisible again, pushed to the side while the machinery of wealth and power ground into motion. Everyone out except immediate family, Dr. Morrison announced. We need to begin the necessary procedures. Jasmine gladly escaped into the hallway, her legs shaking. She made it to the service stairwell before the tears came. She had known Marcus Wellington was dying, but holding his hand as life left his body was different than understanding it intellectually. She had felt his spirit depart, leaving behind only the shell of who he had been. Jasmine. A gentle hand touched her shoulder. She looked up to find Derek, the head butler, offering a handkerchief. He was 62, had worked for the Wellingtons for 30 years, and had always treated her with grandfatherly kindness. I'm okay, she lied, wiping her eyes. No, you're not, and that's all right. He sat beside her on the stairs. Mr. Wellington was a complicated man, but he recognized good people when he saw them. Whatever he said to you up there, he meant it. Jasmine's throat tightened. Should she tell Derek about the will, about the impossible burden Marcus had placed on her shoulders? But something held her back. Marcus had trusted her with his final wish. She needed to honor that, at least until the lawyers made everything official. He just wanted someone to be there, she said quietly. At the end, he didn't want to die alone. Derek nodded slowly. That sounds like something he'd do. The Marcus I knew 40 years ago, before all this. He gestured vaguely at the opulent surroundings. He was a good man once. I think he was trying to remember how. They sat in companionable silence until Mrs. Chen found them. Jasmine, the family wants to speak with you in the library. Now, the library was a testament to wealth, used for decoration rather than education. Leather-bound books lined the walls, most never opened. Richard and Victoria sat in wing-backed chairs, like judges at a tribunal. Between them stood a thin man in an expensive suit, holding a briefcase. "Sit," Richard commanded, pointing to a straight-backed chair positioned to face them. Jasmine remained standing. "I have work to finish." "Your work can wait," Victoria said coldly. "We need to understand what happened in that room. Our father was heavily medicated. If you influenced him in any way, took advantage of his diminished state, I did nothing wrong." Jasmine interrupted, anger finally breaking through her shock. "Your father asked to see me. I held his hand while he died. That's all." The thin man cleared his throat. "I'm Gregory Walsh, the family's attorney. Miss Williams, did Mr. Wellington discuss any legal matters with you? Make any promises or requests?" Marcus's words burned in her memory. "Everything goes to a foundation in your name." But the lawyer's calculating eyes told her to be careful. He talked about his life, about regrets. "Nothing legal." "You're lying," Richard said flatly. "My father wouldn't request a maid on his deathbed for small talk." "What did he tell you?" "That he was proud of the man he used to be," Jasmine said truthfully. "That he wished he had made different choices. That's all." Victoria leaned forward. "Did he mention his will? Any changes? Anything about family assets?" "No." The lie came easier this time. Jasmine understood now that Marcus had been right. His children didn't mourn him. They mourned their expectations, their inheritance, their meal ticket. Gregory Walsh studied her for a long moment. "The official reading of the will is scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m. All staff are required to attend. That includes you, Miss Williams." "Why would staff need to attend?" Jasmine asked. "Because Mr. Wellington specified it in his instructions," Walsh said carefully. "Everyone who worked directly in this house must be present. No exceptions." Richard and Victoria exchanged glances that Jasmine couldn't read. They knew something or suspected something. The weight of tomorrow pressed down on her chest like a stone. "May I go now?" she asked. "Yes," Victoria said dismissively, "but don't leave the grounds. We may have more questions." Jasmine walked out with her head high, but once she reached her small room in the staff quarters, she collapsed on the narrow bed. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, the Wellington family would learn that their fortune belonged to someone else. Tomorrow, Jasmine Williams would become the most hated woman in their world. She pulled out her phone and called the only person she trusted completely. Her grandmother answered on the second ring. "Grammy," Jasmine whispered, "something impossible just happened, and I don't know if I'm strong enough for what comes next." Morning arrived too quickly. Jasmine stood before her tiny closet, staring at her limited wardrobe options. Her best outfit was a simple navy dress she wore to church. Respectable, but clearly inexpensive. It would have to do. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She just needed to survive the next few hours. The other staff members whispered nervously as they gathered in the main hall. Derek straightened his tie repeatedly. Mrs. Chen maintained her usual composure, but her hands clasped too tightly. The junior maids huddled together like frightened birds. Everyone sensed that today would reshape their world. "Why are we all here?" asked Maria, one of the kitchen staff. "They never include us in family business." "Mr. Wellington's orders," Derek said quietly. "We do as we're told." The family arrived in a cloud of expensive perfume and barely concealed hostility. Richard looked like he hadn't slept, his eyes bloodshot and wild. Victoria wore all black, designer morning clothes that probably cost more than Jasmine's car. Behind them came an assortment of cousins, business partners, and hangers-on, all dressed for a funeral that wouldn't happen until next week. Gregory Walsh sat up at the head of the massive dining table, arranging documents with precise movements. 2 other lawyers flanked him, recording equipment ready. This wasn't just a will reading. This was a legal proceeding designed to prevent challenges. "Everyone, please be seated," Walsh announced. His voice carried the authority of someone used to controlling rooms full of powerful people. The staff took seats at the far end of the table. Jasmine found herself between Derek and Mrs. Chen, grateful for their steady presence. She kept her eyes down, trying to make herself small, invisible. "Before we begin," Walsh said, "I want to clarify that this will was prepared 6 weeks ago by Mr. Wellington while he was of sound mind and body. He underwent psychiatric evaluation to confirm his mental competency. 3 independent doctors signed off. Everything we're about to discuss is legally binding and ironclad." Richard shifted in his chair. "Just read it, Gregory. We know it's legitimate." Walsh opened the document folder. "Very well. I, Marcus Wellington, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament." Standard opening language follows. Now to the relevant sections. He paused, and Jasmine felt the room hold its breath. "To my son, Richard Wellington, I leave $1 million and my collection of vintage wines. May you finally learn the value of things that improve with patience." Richard's face went white. $1 million? That's impossible. The estate is worth billions. "Please hold all questions until the end," Walsh said firmly. "To my daughter, Victoria Wellington Ashford, I leave $1 million and the property in Martha's Vineyard. May you find peace away from those who would use you." Victoria stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. "This is insane. He promised us. The company, the investments, everything was supposed to be ours." "Sit down, Mrs. Ashford," Walsh commanded. "We're not finished. The remainder of Marcus Wellington's estate, estimated at $4.7 billion, including all business holdings, properties, investments, and liquid assets, goes into the Wellington Foundation for Social Change. This foundation will be overseen by a single trustee chosen by Marcus Wellington for her integrity, compassion, and vision." Jasmine's heart stopped. This was it. This was the moment her life exploded. Walsh's eyes found hers across the table. "That trustee is Miss Jasmine Marie Williams." The room erupted. Richard lunged forward, stopped only by his lawyer's restraining hand. Victoria screamed accusations of manipulation and fraud. Family members shouted over each other, demanding explanations, threatening lawsuits, calling for police. Jasmine sat frozen while the storm raged around her. Derek's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently. Mrs. Chen leaned close and whispered, "Breathe, child. Just breathe." Walsh raised his voice over the chaos. "There's more." Everyone quiet down. Slowly, the room settled into hostile silence. All eyes turned to Jasmine with hatred so palpable she could taste it. "Marcus Wellington included a personal letter to be read at this time," Walsh continued. He pulled out a single sheet of paper, Marcus's handwriting unmistakable. "Miss Williams, this is addressed to you, but Mr. Wellington requested it be read aloud." Jasmine nodded, not trusting her voice. Walsh cleared his throat and began reading. "Dear Jasmine, if you're hearing this, I'm gone. I'm sorry to burden you, but I watched you for 3 years and saw something I lost decades ago. You see people, not opportunities. You give without expecting return. You're studying to help others when you can barely help yourself. That's who should inherit my life's work. Not people who see money as an end, but someone who understands it's a tool for good." Richard slammed his fist on the table. "This is manipulation. She poisoned his mind." Walsh ignored him. The letter continues. "My family will hate you. They'll sue, threaten, try to destroy you. I've made provisions for legal protection and a personal security team. Use them. The Art Foundation's mission is simple: education for underprivileged children. healthcare in underserved communities, and job training programs. I'm giving you the resources to change lives the way I should have. Don't let anyone take that away. You're stronger than you know. Prove me right. With respect and hope, Marcus Wellington. Silence fell like a hammer. Jasmine felt tears streaming down her face, but she couldn't move to wipe them away. The weight of Marcus's faith in her was crushing and uplifting simultaneously. This will be challenged, Victoria said, her voice shaking with rage. We'll spend every penny fighting this travesty. You're welcome to try, Walsh replied calmly. But I should mention that Mr. Wellington also established a separate legal fund of $50 million specifically to defend against will challenges. He anticipated your reaction and prepared accordingly. Richard pointed a trembling finger at Jasmine. You destroyed this family. I hope you're happy. Jasmine found her voice at last. It came out steady, strengthened by Grammy's decades of lessons about standing tall in the face of injustice. I didn't destroy anything. Your father made his choice. Maybe instead of blaming me, ask yourselves why he felt he couldn't trust you with his legacy. The truth of her words hit like a slap. Victoria's face crumpled. Richard looked away. The other family members suddenly found the table fascinating. Walsh gathered his papers. Miss Williams, please remain. The rest of you are dismissed. We'll be in touch regarding funeral arrangements and estate logistics. The Wellington family filed out in bitter silence, shooting Jasmine looks that promised this war was far from over. The staff members left more quietly, though their shocked expressions said they were already processing how this changed everything. Finally, only Jasmine, Walsh, and his legal team remained. You understand what you've inherited? Walsh asked gently. This isn't just money. It's responsibility, danger, and public scrutiny. Jasmine thought about Grammy cleaning houses until her hands bled, about her own struggles to afford textbooks, about every person she'd met who needed a hand up but got pushed down instead. I understand, she said, and I'm ready. The first threat arrived before Jasmine even left the mansion. As she walked toward the staff quarters to pack her few belongings, Victoria blocked her path in the corridor. The older woman's carefully composed facade had shattered, revealing raw fury beneath. You think you've won? Victoria hissed, stepping close enough that Jasmine could smell her expensive perfume mixed with wine. You have no idea what you've done. My father built that empire from nothing. He survived poverty, racism, betrayal. And you, some girl who scrubs toilets, think you can just take it. Jasmine kept her voice level. I'm not taking anything. Your father gave me a responsibility. A responsibility. Victoria laughed bitterly. You're a thief with legal paperwork. But here's what you don't understand about our world. Money isn't just money. It's power, connections, influence. You don't know how to navigate that. They'll eat you alive. Maybe, Jasmine admitted, but I'm going to try anyway. Victoria's expression shifted to something almost pitying. He did this to punish us. Don't you see? You're not special. You're just his final middle finger to his children. When the novelty wears off and reality sets in, you'll crumble. Then we'll be there to pick up the pieces. She swept away, leaving Jasmine shaking in the empty hallway. The words burrowed deep because part of them rang true. Marcus had been angry at his family. Was Jasmine really chosen for her merits, or was she just a convenient weapon? Derek found her 10 minutes later, still standing in the same spot. Don't listen to her. Victoria's always been cruel when she's scared. How do you do this? Jasmine asked. How do you work for people who treat you like you're invisible? Because most of the time, invisible is safe, Derek said sadly. But you're not invisible anymore. You're going to need allies. Over the next 3 days, Jasmine learned Derek was right. The Wellington legal team moved her into a secure apartment downtown, away from the mansion and its hostile occupants. Security personnel shadowed her everywhere. Gregory Walsh spent hours explaining trusts, investments, corporate structures, and foundation law until her head spun. You don't have to understand everything immediately, Walsh assured her during one particularly overwhelming session. That's why Marcus surrounded you with advisors. But you do need to understand the basics, and you need to know who to trust. Can I trust you? Jasmine asked bluntly. Walsh considered the question seriously. Marcus Wellington was my client for 23 years. I watched him build something extraordinary and then watched it hollow him out. He became obsessed with legacy, with making sure his wealth outlived him meaningfully. When he told me about you, I was skeptical, but then I investigated. He pulled out a folder. Did you know that you anonymously paid for your neighbor's cancer treatment last year? That you've been tutoring kids in your building for free every Saturday? That you organized a coat drive that collected over 300 winter jackets for homeless shelters? Jasmine stared at the folder. How did you? Because Marcus Wellington asked me to find out who you really were. He wanted to be sure. Walsh's expression softened. You passed his test, Miss Williams. Now the question is whether you trust yourself. The real challenges started when the media got involved. Someone leaked the will's contents, and suddenly Jasmine's face was everywhere. Billionaire snubs family for Maid, read one headline. Cinderella story or con job, asked another. Reporters camped outside her apartment building, shouting questions whenever she appeared. Her phone rang constantly with strangers offering advice, threats, or proposals. Social media exploded with opinions from people who had never met her or Marcus Wellington. Some called her a hero, others called her a gold digger. The truth, as always, got lost in the noise. Grammy called every day, her voice a lifeline to reality. You remember who you are, she said firmly during one particularly difficult conversation. These people don't know you. They don't know what you've survived, what you're capable of. You hold your head up, but the pressure was crushing. Jasmine had never wanted this kind of attention. She just wanted to help people, maybe make her corner of the world slightly better. Now she was responsible for billions of dollars and a legacy that could change thousands of lives or become a spectacular failure. The Wellington family filed their lawsuit exactly 1 week after the will reading. They claimed undue influence, mental incompetence, and fraud. The legal papers were delivered by messenger while Jasmine met with potential foundation board members. They're serious, Walsh said, scanning the documents. They've hired Harrison and Locke, the most aggressive litigation firm in the city. This will get ugly. How ugly? Jasmine asked. They'll dig into your past, interview everyone you've ever known, look for any skeleton in any closet. They'll paint you as a manipulative opportunist who took advantage of a dying man. They'll make this personal. Jasmine thought about her life. Single mother who died when Jasmine was 7. Grammy, who worked 3 jobs to raise her. Growing up poor in neighborhoods where opportunities were rare. Struggling through community college while working full-time. Nothing glamorous, but nothing shameful either. Let them look, she said. I have nothing to hide. Walsh smiled grimly. That's exactly what Marcus said you'd say. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks away. In the meantime, Jasmine had to keep the foundation moving forward. She met with non-profit directors, education specialists, healthcare advocates. Each conversation revealed more about the scope of what Marcus had entrusted to her. The Wellington Foundation could fund every scholarship program in the state. One education director explained excitedly, we could build schools, update technology, pay teachers competitive salaries. The impact would be generational. A healthcare administrator showed her statistics about medical bankruptcy and preventable deaths in low-income communities. With proper funding, we could open clinics, provide free screenings, offer mental health services. We could save lives. The possibilities were overwhelming and inspiring. This was why Marcus had done it, not to punish his family, but to create something that would outlast all of them. But late at night, alone in her unfamiliar apartment, with security guards outside her door, Jasmine sometimes questioned everything. Was she really capable of this? What if she failed? What if Victoria was right and she was just Marcus's final act of revenge? Then she would remember his hand in hers, his final words. "Already am," he had said when she promised to make him proud. He had seen something in her that she sometimes struggled to see in herself. On the 10th day after the will reading, Derek called. "You need to come to the mansion. There's something you should see." Jasmine arrived to find the house in chaos. Moving trucks lined the driveway. Richard and Victoria were liquidating everything they could claim as personal property before the estate was fully settled. Family photographs came down from walls. Heirlooms disappeared into boxes. The Wellington history was being dismantled in real time. "Why did you want me to see this?" Jasmine asked Derek. He led her to Marcus's bedroom, now stripped bare except for one item. On the nightstand sat a leather journal, her name written on the cover in Marcus's handwriting. "He told me to make sure you got this," Derek said. "He said you'd need it when things got hard." Jasmine opened the journal. The first page contained a single sentence in Marcus's distinctive script. "The hardest battles are the ones worth fighting. Don't give up on people who need you. I never gave up on you." She read through tear-blurred eyes as Marcus detailed his own journey. His struggles growing up poor, the discrimination he faced building his business, the compromises he made that slowly corrupted his values. He wrote about watching his children become entitled and distant, about the loneliness of having everything except genuine connection. And he wrote about Jasmine, observations from 3 years of watching her work, moments of kindness she had forgotten, the time she covered for another maid who was late because of a sick child, when she used her own money to replace a vase she hadn't broken because the actual culprit was a nervous junior staffer. How she talked to Marcus like he was a person, not an icon or a checkbook. "You reminded me who I wanted to be," he had written. "You gave me hope that maybe my life's work could mean something after all. Don't let anyone take that away. The world needs more people like you in positions of power. Be brave, Jasmine. I believe in you." She closed the journal and looked at Derek through her tears. "I'm terrified." "Good," he said. "That means you understand what's at stake." Marcus was terrified when he started too, but he did it anyway. "Now it's your turn." The courthouse steps felt like a gauntlet. Reporters surged forward as Jasmine emerged from the car, cameras flashing, microphones thrust in her face. Questions flew like weapons. "Did you seduce Marcus Wellington? Are you qualified to run a billion-dollar foundation? What do you say to the family who claims you stole their inheritance?" Gregory Walsh's hand on her elbow kept her moving forward, security guards clearing a path through the chaos. This was the preliminary hearing, where the judge would decide whether the Wellington family's challenge had merit to proceed to full trial. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere crackled with tension. Richard and Victoria sat with their legal team on one side, their expressions carefully neutral for the cameras. But Jasmine saw the hatred in Victoria's eyes, the contempt in Richard's posture. They blamed her for their father's rejection, for the public humiliation, for the future they felt was stolen. Judge Patricia Morrison entered, a stern African-American woman in her 60s whose reputation for nonsense proceedings preceded her. Everyone stood, then settled as she took her seat. "This is a preliminary hearing regarding the estate of Marcus Wellington," she began. "I've reviewed the filed documents. Mr. Harrison, you represent the plaintiffs." James Harrison stood, immaculate in a $10,000 suit. "Yes, Your Honor. We're here because Marcus Wellington's will represents a clear case of undue influence. My client's father was dying, heavily medicated and vulnerable. Miss Williams exploited that vulnerability to manipulate him into changing a will that had stood for 15 years. Your Honor," Walsh countered, rising. "Marcus Wellington changed his will 6 weeks before his death, while fully competent. He underwent psychiatric evaluation, specifically to prevent this kind of challenge. 3 independent doctors certified his mental capacity. We have evidence, Harrison interrupted, that Miss Williams had unusual access to Mr. Wellington during his final months, that she isolated him from his family, that she was present at the moment of death under suspicious circumstances. Judge Morrison's eyebrow raised. Suspicious circumstances. The door was locked. She was alone with him. She could have coerced final statements or actions that influenced the will. Jasmine's hands clenched in her lap. The insinuation was clear. They were suggesting she had done something criminal or manipulative in Marcus's final moments. Walsh stood again. "May I present evidence, Your Honor?" The judge nodded. Walsh pulled out a laptop and connected it to the courtroom display. Marcus Wellington was many things, but he was not careless. He anticipated challenges to his will. Therefore, he took certain precautions. A video appeared on the screen. Marcus Wellington, sitting in his study 6 weeks before his death, looking frail but alert. The timestamp and date were clearly visible. "I'm Marcus Wellington," his recorded voice said. "I'm making this video to explain my decisions regarding my estate because I know my family will challenge them. I am of sound mind. You can verify that with Dr. Sarah Chen, psychiatrist, who evaluated me yesterday. I'm not being coerced or manipulated. These are my choices." The courtroom went silent as Marcus continued. "I'm leaving the bulk of my estate to Jasmine Williams because she embodies values I abandoned in my pursuit of wealth. She's compassionate, honest, and committed to helping others. My children have demonstrated repeatedly that they value money over people, including me. Richard's gambling debts total $7.3 million. Victoria enabled her husband's fraud scheme that cost 3 families their retirement savings. I've bailed them out repeatedly, hoping they'd change. They didn't." Victoria's face had gone white. Richard stared at the table. "Jasmine doesn't know about this video," Marcus said. "She doesn't know about my plans. If she's watching this now, it's because my family has accused her of manipulation. Jasmine, if you're there, you did nothing wrong. You were kind to a dying old man. You saw me as human, not as a bank account. That's why I trust you with my legacy. Don't let them bully you into giving up." The video ended. Judge Morrison sat back, her expression unreadable. Harrison stood quickly. "Your Honor, this video doesn't prove. It proves quite a lot." "Actually," the judge interrupted, "it proves Mr. Wellington was competent and understood his actions. It proves he anticipated challenges. And it proves he had clear reasons for his decisions. Do you have any evidence that contradicts this?" "We have testimony from family members about Miss Williams's suspicious behavior." "Suspicious how?" "Being kind to her employer, doing her job." "I need specific evidence of manipulation, Mr. Harrison, not hurt feelings." The lawyer shuffled papers. "We're prepared to show that Miss Williams lacks the education and experience necessary to manage such a large estate." Walsh stood. "Marcus Wellington provided for that. Miss Williams has been given a full advisory team, including myself, 3 financial managers, non-profit specialists, and a board of directors. She doesn't need to be an expert. She needs to be ethical and committed to the Foundation's mission, which she is." Judge Morrison looked at Jasmine for the first time. "Miss Williams, please stand." Jasmine rose on shaking legs, aware of every eye in the courtroom. "Did you know about Mr. Wellington's plans before his death?" the judge asked. "He told me the day he died," Jasmine answered honestly. "I was shocked. I tried to tell him it was impossible, that his family would fight it. He said he knew, but he believed I could handle it." "Why do you think he chose you?" Jasmine thought about Marcus's journal, his video, his final words. "Because I reminded him of who he wanted to be. Because I saw him as a person, not a fortune. Because I'm studying social work. Because I want to help people who are struggling the way I struggled. He thought that meant I'd use his money for good instead of for myself. And will you? Judge Morrison asked. Will you use it for good? I'm going to try my hardest, Jasmine said. I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I promise I'll work every day to honor what he trusted me with. The judge nodded slowly. Mr. Harrison, unless you have concrete evidence of fraud, manipulation, or incompetence, I'm not inclined to move this forward. A man has the right to dispose of his property as he sees fit. Marcus Wellington was clearly competent and had sound reasons for his decisions. Your Honor, we request time to gather additional evidence. You have 30 days. If you can't present compelling evidence of wrongdoing, this case is dismissed. Until then, the will stands as written. Miss Williams retains control of the estate and foundation. She banged her gavel. Court adjourned. The Wellington lawyers immediately huddled with Richard and Victoria, their angry whispers carrying across the courtroom. Jasmine felt a wave of exhaustion so profound she almost collapsed. Walsh steadied her. You did well, he said quietly. But this isn't over. They'll keep digging, keep fighting. I know, Jasmine said. But I'm not backing down. Outside, the media frenzy had intensified. But this time, when reporters shouted questions, Jasmine stopped. Walsh looked alarmed, but she shook her head. She needed to say this. I know most of you think I'm not qualified for this, she said, her voice carrying over the crowd. And you're right in some ways. I don't have a business degree. I'm not from their world. But Marcus Wellington saw something in me anyway. He saw someone who cared about people more than profit. Someone who understood struggle because I've lived it. I'm going to honor that trust by building a foundation that actually changes lives. The Wellington Foundation will fund education, healthcare, and opportunity for people who need it most. That's my promise. Not to the Wellington family, but to everyone who's ever been told they don't matter because they're poor. The crowd erupted with more questions, but Walsh gently pulled her toward the car. As they drove away, Jasmine saw something unexpected in the crowd. Signs, support signs. Team Jasmine read one. Let her try, said another. Not everyone had turned against her. Back at her apartment, Grammy called immediately. I saw you on TV, baby. You stood tall. Your grandfather would have been so proud. I'm scared, Grammy. What if I mess this up? What if I'm not strong enough? Strength isn't about never being afraid, Grammy said. It's about being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. You've got Wellington blood in your spirit now. You carry his hope. Don't you dare give up on that. That night, Jasmine opened Marcus's journal again. She read his words about perseverance, about staying true to values when the world pushed back, and she made a decision. She would fight. Not just for the foundation or Marcus's legacy, but for everyone who had ever been underestimated because of where they came from. The battle was just beginning, but for the first time since Marcus's death, Jasmine felt ready. 3 months after the courthouse hearing, the Wellington Foundation officially opened its doors. The renovated community center in downtown Detroit gleamed with fresh paint and new equipment. Jasmine stood in the main hall, watching families explore the education wing, the healthcare clinic, and the job training center. Everything Marcus had envisioned was becoming real. This is incredible, Derek said, appearing beside her. He had left the Wellington mansion to become the foundation's operations director. Marcus would have loved seeing this. The Wellington family's lawsuit had been dismissed 2 weeks earlier when their investigators failed to find any evidence of wrongdoing. Richard and Victoria had disappeared from public view, their reputations damaged by revelations about their financial mismanagement and entitlement. But Jasmine felt no satisfaction in their downfall. She had learned that victory over others was hollow. Real success meant creating something meaningful. The education director approached, a young woman named Simone who reminded Jasmine of herself 5 years earlier. Miss Williams, we have 60 students enrolled in the college prep program. 15 already received early admission letters, thanks to the intensive tutoring. These are kids who thought college was impossible. Show me, Jasmine said. They walked through classrooms where teenagers hunched over laptops, working on essays and applications. One young man looked up, his eyes widening with recognition. You're really her, the lady from the news. Jasmine sat down beside him. I'm really me. What are you working on? My college essay. About growing up poor and wanting to be an engineer. But I don't know if it's good enough. She read his draft, seeing her own story reflected in his words. The struggle to afford books, the pressure of being the first in his family to aim for higher education, the fear that he didn't belong in spaces designed for wealthier students. This is powerful, she said honestly. You're telling your truth. That's always good enough. Keep going. His smile transformed his face. After she moved on, Simone whispered, You're good at this, connecting with people, making them believe in themselves. Someone did that for me once, Jasmine said, thinking of Marcus. I'm just passing it forward. The healthcare clinic buzzed with activity. Free health screenings, dental care, mental health counseling. A mother cried with relief as a doctor diagnosed her daughter's chronic pain, something she had been unable to afford to investigate. An elderly man received glasses for the first time in 15 years, marveling at the clarity of the world around him. Dr. Patel, the clinic director, showed Jasmine the statistics. We've seen 300 patients in our first month, prevented for medical emergencies that would have resulted in expensive ER visits, connected 50 people with ongoing care they desperately did. This isn't just healthcare, Miss Williams. This is dignity. Jasmine felt tears prick her eyes. This is what he wanted. Real impact, not tax shelters. That evening, the foundation hosted its inaugural gala. Jasmine had resisted the idea initially, uncomfortable with the pageantry of wealthy fundraising. But Walsh convinced her that building relationships with donors and partners was essential for sustainability. She wore a simple black dress, elegant but not extravagant. Grammy had flown in for the occasion, stunning in royal blue, her silver hair styled perfectly. Look at you, Grammy said, squeezing Jasmine's hand. My baby girl, changing the world. The ballroom filled with philanthropists, business leaders, community organizers, and local politicians. Jasmine worked the room, telling Marcus's story and the foundation's mission. Some people were genuine in their interest. Others were clearly there for social positioning. She was learning to tell the difference. Halfway through the evening, an elderly woman approached. She had kind eyes and an air of quiet authority. Miss Williams, I'm Eleanor Chen, Marcus's first investor 40 years ago. Jasmine recognized the name from her research into Marcus's history. Dr. Chen, you gave him $50,000 to start his first company when no one else would. He was brilliant and determined. But more importantly, he was good. Back then, at least. Eleanor's expression grew wistful. I watched him change over the years. Success hardened him. He started seeing people as assets or obstacles. I distanced myself because I couldn't watch him lose his soul. Why are you here now? Jasmine asked gently. Because I heard he found it again at the end. Because of you. Eleanor smiled. I want to donate $5 million to the foundation. Not because I'm rich and bored, but because you're doing what Marcus and I dreamed about when we were young and hopeful. You're proving that wealth can heal instead of harm. Jasmine's voice caught. Thank you. That means everything. Don't thank me. Just keep being who you are. The world needs more people who lead with compassion. As the evening continued, Jasmine stepped onto the balcony for a moment of quiet. The city sprawled below, lights twinkling in the darkness. Somewhere out there were people struggling like she once had, wondering if things would ever get better. I'm doing it, she whispered to the night sky, to Marcus's memory. I'm keeping my promise. Talking to yourself. Gregory Walsh joined her, holding 2 glasses of champagne. That's either a sign of stress or genius. With you, Probably both. She accepted the glass with a laugh, just reflecting. 3 months ago, I was scrubbing floors. Now I'm running a foundation that impacts thousands of lives. It still doesn't feel real. You've done well, Jasmine. Better than anyone expected, including yourself. Walsh's expression grew serious. There's something you should know. Victoria reached out to my office yesterday. Jasmine tensed. What does she want? To apologize? To you? To her father's memory? To herself maybe? She's been in therapy, working through some things. She asked if she could volunteer at the foundation. Nothing public, just helping where needed. What do you think? Jasmine asked. I think people can change. I think Marcus believed that, or he wouldn't have trusted you to show his family a different way. But the choice is yours. Jasmine thought about the hatred in Victoria's eyes at the courthouse, the vicious words in the mansion hallway. But she also thought about Marcus's journal, about how he had lost himself and found redemption at the end. Maybe his daughter deserved the same chance. Tell her yes, Jasmine said, but she starts in the kitchen, helping prepare meals for families. No special treatment. If she's serious about changing, she needs to understand the work from the ground up. Walsh nodded approvingly. Marcus would have loved that response. Back inside, Jasmine was pulled into conversations with a youth advocate, a hospital administrator, and a small business owner who wanted to partner on job training programs. Each conversation planted seeds for future initiatives, expanding the foundation's reach. Near midnight, as guests began departing, Derek found her. There's someone here who's been waiting to talk to you. A young woman? She said it's important. The young woman was about Jasmine's age, with nervous eyes and worn clothes that spoke of financial struggle. Miss Williams, I'm Ashley Rodriguez. I saw you on the news, heard about the foundation. How can I help you? Jasmine asked gently. I'm a single mum, 2 kids. I was working 3 jobs just to keep food on the table, and I still couldn't afford daycare or healthcare. I was about to give up on my nursing degree because I couldn't make it work. Ashley's voice trembled. Then I heard about your foundation, the childcare assistance, the scholarship program, the healthcare clinic. I applied and I got in. All of it. You saved my life, Miss Williams. You gave me hope when I had none left. Jasmine hugged her, both women crying. This was why she had accepted Marcus's impossible burden. Not for the money or power or prestige, but for moments like this, for the chance to be someone's answered prayer the way others had been hers. You're going to be an amazing nurse, Jasmine whispered, and someday you'll help someone else the way we helped you. That's how it works. That's how we change things. After Ashley left, Jasmine found a quiet corner and opened her phone. She had started a video diary, messages to Marcus that she would never send but somehow needed to record. Dear Marcus, she said softly to the camera, 3 months in, and I'm still terrified every day, but I'm also amazed every day. Today, I met a woman whose life the foundation changed. I saw kids learning who thought education was out of reach. I watched a man cry because he could finally see clearly after years of struggling without glasses. This is what you envisioned. This is what your life's work has become. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Your family is healing too. Victoria wants to help. I don't know if it will work out, but I'm giving her a chance because that's what you gave me. A chance to be more than circumstances suggested. A chance to prove that goodness matters more than pedigree. Grammy appeared in the doorway. Come on, baby girl. Long day tomorrow. Foundation board meeting at 8, then the school visit at 10. Jasmine pocketed her phone and stood. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new responsibilities, new opportunities to mess up or succeed. But tonight, she had proof that Marcus Wellington's faith in her wasn't misplaced. 6 months later, the foundation had expanded to 3 cities. Richard had quietly donated $1 million anonymously, his first genuine charitable act. Victoria worked in the kitchen twice a week, slowly rebuilding relationships with the family she had alienated. The media had moved on to other stories, allowing Jasmine to work without constant scrutiny. She still lived simply, still drove her old car, still called Grammy every morning. The money hadn't changed her because she understood it wasn't hers. She was just a steward, a guardian of Marcus's dream to create meaningful change. On the anniversary of Marcus's death, Jasmine visited his grave. The Wellington family mausoleum was ostentatious, but his actual grave was modest at his request. She placed flowers on the marble and sat in the grass beside him. "I did it," she said. "Your foundation is thriving. Your family is healing. Your legacy is everything you hoped it would be. I'm still learning, still making mistakes, but I'm trying so hard to make you proud." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of fresh flowers and spring rain. Jasmine felt a peace settle over her, a sense that somehow Marcus knew, that he was proud of the scared young woman who had held his hand as he died and then became strong enough to carry his dreams forward. She stood, brushing grass from her simple dress. There was work to do, a world to change, one person at a time. Lives to impact, hope to spread, possibilities to create. "Thank you," she whispered to the grave, to the memory, to the impossible gift he had given her. "Thank you for seeing something in me I didn't see in myself. I won't let you down." As she walked back to her car, where Derek waited to drive them to the afternoon's foundation event, Jasmine felt the weight of her responsibility, but she also felt the strength that came from purpose, from knowing her life mattered beyond herself. Marcus Wellington had died alone, except for a compassionate maid who treated him like a human being. In return, he had given her the power to ensure no one else had to struggle the way they both once had. It was a legacy of hope, built on a foundation of kindness, and Jasmine Williams, once invisible, now carried that light forward into a world that desperately needed it. The mansion on the hill stood empty now, being converted into the Foundation's headquarters and a museum celebrating Marcus's journey from poverty to prosperity. His story would inspire future generations, but more importantly, the resources he had accumulated would continue changing lives long after everyone involved was gone. That was immortality, not wealth or fame, but impact that rippled outward endlessly, touching lives that would never know the name of the man who made it possible. Jasmine smiled as she settled into the car. She had kissed a dying billionaire's forehead in compassion, and he had given her the world, not to keep, but to share, not to hoard, but to multiply. And she would spend the rest of her life proving that his final act of faith in humanity was justified. The poor maid who became a billionaire's heir had learned the most valuable lesson of all. True wealth was never measured in dollars, but in lives touched, hope restored, and love shared freely with those who needed it most. Marcus Wellington's legacy lived on, and Jasmine Williams made sure it always would.